Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 7 of One Step at a Time with Charlie Chen. And today's topic, we're going to talk about the concept of a true self and desire. Now, to get it started, I hope everyone has bought their lottery ticket because it's at 1.7 billion right now. Now, this is by no means an advertisement for the lottery ticket, but one thing I learned early in life, because I was married once when I was much younger, was that both me and my ex were struggling trying to make ends meet. And I remember that we would buy maybe one or two lottery tickets. And then the biggest thing that we got out of a lottery ticket wasn't winning at all, but it's more like we were just holding on to the lottery tickets and we would lean against each other and we would think about what would be what would we do with the money if we had it, right? And and tell you what though, having the numbers to sort of just because a lot of times our mind don't think about things if the pricing is above what we can comprehend. So like I don't dream about Lamborghinis, I don't dream about Ferraris, much less anything more than I don't know $5,000 because it's out of my price range, right? Now, while very practical, the thing about that is that it's also very limiting, right? Because many assets, if you think about it, cost more than $5,000, right? So, so, so I guess my endorsement to buying a lottery ticket is actually not to buy a lottery ticket, but more so as an exercise to understand what you actually want out of life, sort of as a proxy for you to think ahead. Now, if you can think about it without a lottery ticket, great, then don't buy it. So that's that. But it does bring up a good point, though, right? Because what would you do with all that money, right? And, well, to tell the truth, I think the minimum wage in America is still around $7 or something. And if you calculate that into a year, that's around $20,000, a little bit more than that. And technically, you can find stocks that pay like around, I don't know, 7 to 10% dividends, although those are harder to find, especially with the prices being inflated lately. So those are harder to find. I think the one that I was looking at used to be paying like 6-7%. Now they're only paying like 3% because, inflation. So that means for freedom, technically, all you need is really like $200,000 to $300,000. You don't need $1 million. You just need $200,000 to $300,000 invested in some stocks that pays dividends, and next thing you know, you can make the same amount of income as working a minimum wage job without actually having to work. Because, karma. Someone else is actually working to create that value, and then you take a cut, right? But yeah. So let's see. So the main topic today is the concept of true self and desire, right? I think desire is a very interesting thing because if you think about the 7, and actually, now I don't know all 7 deadly sins. Let's see, 7 deadly sins. What are they? The 7 deadly sins. You have the pride, greed, wrath, envy, lust, gluttony, and sloth. I mean, they all have to do with desire in a certain kind of way, because I guess desire for pride, I guess the desire to be able to accept yourself and be able to present yourself and be loved or be praised for having a sense of pride, right? Having something that people would like you for. Greed, well, desire for money or resources. Wrath, that sounds like desire to cause harm and desire for power. Envy, jealousy, that pretty much is desire, right? You want something someone else have, right? Lust, well, that's another kind of desire. A fun one at that. Gluttony, desire for food, and be desired. Well, but next one is sloth. So sloth would be desire to be left alone and to just sit around all day, right? Or not be bossed around. So yeah, all seven deadly sins revolve around desire. But can we live without desire? That's the thing. Because and that's where the concept of true self comes in. Because if well, if you don't have desire, is your true self who you are now? Right? Because as we grow up, like let's say you look at the 2-year-old version of me who's playing with bricks and little fire trucks and things like that. Is that my true self? Or maybe the 10-year-old me who likes to kick football into, not football, but soccer in America, into walls really hard and hear that loud bang as it crashes into the wall and bounces back to me and kick so that I can kick it again. Is that my true self, right? Or maybe the awkward Chinese nerd who gets good grade in school, right? Is that my true self? I feel like as we grow old, our true self evolves. So it's like trying to get a hold of something that's constantly evolving and elusive, right? So I think when it comes to that, it's almost like yes, you can guide yourself to be a certain kind of way. Like you can force yourself to work out, or you can force yourself to stick to a certain sleep schedule. You can force yourself to take on a second job and things like that. But at the end of the day, I think for the true self to emerge, you sort of just have to, yes, you can will yourself into that kind, or what kind of person that you want to be, but it's almost like you also want to be in a situation where you create a certain kind of environment where the best you can emerge, right? Like the workout, for instance, right? Like you force yourself into a gym environment, so you work out, so then so your true self, at least outwardly, becomes more pronounced, right? So, but yeah, but then, as you know, I'm trans, and so I think about the concept of true self, right? And the reason why I became trans, I don't know who I talked to, if I spoke about it before. It's like, well, I've always liked cute things when I was younger, but I was never really allowed to like cute things. And and growing up, and as you can see, I have a lot of like pimple scars on my face. But growing up, I had pimples, and then one time I remember the adults offered, well, one of the adults offered, hey, maybe we can put him on some estrogen to reduce the effects of, the pimples, right? I remember that I wanted it. I didn't feel disgusted or rejected it, but obviously the adults didn't approve it, and then I pretty much went through puberty and everything just like a normal person, right? And of course, Asian parents, and then of course, and then when I moved to America, I grew up with a conservative parent along with my Asian parent mom. So there's a lot of repression going on, right? Because I was repressed as a kid in China. I also wanted to impress my parents when I was in America, And not to mention that I lived really far away from everyone. So I was the weird kid that liked school better than home. So there's repression there. And then, of course, when I was in college, I met my ex and we got married. And then, so I went from playing the role of a good son into playing the role of a good husband. And then, so there wasn't time to be me, I guess, right? And so the whole time that's the thing. I don't know if I was me or if I was playing a character. And of course, it all came crashing down when I was 28 years old and got divorced then. And and then of course also got betrayed at work because they they sort of verbally promised me to help me with more interesting projects and promotions if I stick it out and work really hard for them. So I did. I went above and beyond, and when I went to collect, they turned their back on me. So that's a lesson in anything at work. If that's beneficial, get it on paper, because if you don't get it on paper, it can be potentially be damaging. And as a bonus, as you know, I'm laid off. And I guess as a bonus, on the flip side, if something potentially bad is happening, also don't forget to document. I wasn't thinking that my employer was gonna, or my previous employer was gonna do something like that to me, and I didn't document the possible things that could have been bad. And here we are. And it's kind of hard to have like evidence, right? Because they had it in their emails. So if they erase the evidence, then there are no evidence, right? Other than I'm just out here by myself. Nobody will look into the case because everyone is laid off, whether they're laid off rightfully or not, right? So document, document, document. It almost feels like you need to document more about your interactions with your work than documenting the work procedures for the benefit of the company. So that's a that's a life lesson there. But anyway, so I did hit rock bottom, and when I was at rock bottom, I remember looking in the mirror and I hated myself. And then I eventually arrived at the point where I was like, well, if I can't really expect people to love me if I don't love myself, right? Then the question is, what do I need to do in order to love myself? And so I was pretty much in the dark room with a ceiling fan, and then with just a dark room, and then with like the street lights beaming the shade of the window into the wall, and I was just laying on the ground looking at the ceiling and thinking to myself, it's like, what is it that I need to do? And for me to love myself, I thought, and I still believe, is that I had to be honest with myself. And to be honest with myself, I actually had to see like who I am as a person. Was I completely honest about my feelings, or with who my identity, right? And so that was then when I realized that perhaps I was trans. And so I started exploring that part of myself, and I decided to go with it, right? And it felt very normal for me as I became trans, and so I'm sticking with it. And of course, I also started working out. Although I haven't worked out for the last few months, and as you know, I'm getting really fat and I hate it. Oh man, I need to get back to working out. And but stress eating is a thing. So it's kind of interesting because I sort of lost my job both between Trump tariffs and Canadian bank doesn't want to have risky U.S. employees, but also like but also because I guess I had an accident because I was too stressed from burnout, I guess. And it's weird, right? Like the lesson, I don't know what is the lesson to learn other than, I guess, I should have shouldered the burnout better. I mean, I was working really hard and I was stressed. So now I get to be, well, now I also work really hard because I help a lot of people. I do comedy, I do real estate, and I'm also stressed. But on the flip side, now I have no income. So it's like, well, it's kind of nasty, isn't it? It's like take the beatings while being stressed. I don't know. Maybe there is no good lesson to learn there. But anyway, so yeah, I got to be myself. And of course, as you know, as I said before, I was repressing myself since I was a kid, right? So one of the things that I repressed a lot was actually my emotions. And one of the first emotions I released was anger. And I was angry at my own failures. I was angry that I wish I did better. Sure, I was angry at people betraying me, but at the end, I was more angry at myself for not being able to be. I wish I was harsher to people. No, that wasn't it. I guess I wish I had better ability for discernment, right? I wish I wasn't that gullible. I wish, but that's the thing, right? I'm not very good at going on the offense. I'm more of a defense kind of personality. Defense is support, and and it's hard to be defense and support if you aren't already ahead. And so yeah. But yes, anger was the first emotion I let out. But of course, with anger, it's like a dam broke loose. Rest of my emotions came back, and I felt more as a person because before I felt like I was a machine in the sense that people come up to me, tell me what they want, doesn't matter if it's spouse, work, or anything, or maybe some person struggling in real life, and then I just help them. And it's not even help them because my will or anything. It's just help them because it's expected, and it's just a very robotic. It's almost like drilled into me kind of response to just help people, and then just say, "Oh, no problem, have a great day," and then just keep moving with my day. Nowadays, I still help people, but I also think about considerations. I think about what are the risk involved. I think about everything else. And of course, more often than not, I still help people. And uh, in a way, I get more out of it because before, I guess I felt happy too, but now I felt more happy. I don't know if that makes sense, but because there's more emotions at play as I help people. Now, of course, if things go bad, they also feel a lot worse because of more emotions at play, right? So, yeah, so I was able to be my true self, but just being your true self doesn't put food on the table, right? So like, as much as we like to talk about authenticity, a hungry stomach is still a hungry stomach, and an empty bowl is still an empty bowl, right? So, and there lies in the problem, right? It's like if you know how to provide value, but you don't know how to get paid for it, are you screwed? That is the kind of question I think about. Because people are more than happy to receive help from me, and I know that. And it's fine because everybody needs help, but I also feel like I'm slowly drowning myself because in a way I feel like I'm in no position to help other people when I should focus on self-care, right? But that's the thing, right? If I only focus on myself, all I do is slow down the bleeding, but it doesn't change the fact that I'm going to bleed out and die. So it almost feels like I'm sort of forced to help people because maybe because I have the ability to help others, but I don't have the ability to help myself. So so it's almost like I'm stuck in a situation where I'm forced to help people, hopefully that the different broken pieces added together can be a bigger whole that will uplift all of us at the same time. And so, is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? I don't know. Now, it doesn't mean that I don't like people. It's just, it does feel a little bit bitter being forced to do everything, right? So, it's like my will is not my own. And perhaps that is my ultimate desire to be able to just do wherever I want and help people when I want to and don't help people when I want to, right? Um, I was talking to a friend about my Dungeons and Dragon alignment, and I was thinking about it. I think the one that closest suits me is chaotic neutral. And so, yeah. But anyways, but yeah, that is my desire. I want to be and that actually just opened up another can of worm or a whole world. It's like I want to be free, but that's the thing America sells, right? And are we as Americans really free? It's sometimes a lot of times it feels like you are free to go pound sand or something like that, right? And 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 it's like growing up in this world but wasn't taught about money other than to be frugal and save, but not how to make more of it or go into sales or some other things, right? Because the push for me to go into my majors was to not be a burden on my parents. And I happened to be good with technology, so I went with IT. But like I said before, this freedom it feels more like exile because you don't know what to do with it, right? So I don't know. I don't know. Hmm. And that's the thing, right? Even if we win the lottery as people, will it true like I feel like it will remove the distractions, but it won't remove the fundamental questions that you will have or dissatisfaction with life. I mean, not starving to death is nice, but I think that if you're naturally happy, you will continue being naturally happy. And if you're not happy, then no amount of, I mean, money can make you chuckle sometimes, but when it's gone, or, you know. So, it, it's, It really reminds me of that Chinese quote called 比上不足，比下有余, which means compared to people who are doing better than you don't have what it takes to overcome them or to reach their level. And compared to people who are beneath you, you don't deserve any sympathy or any help because you're doing well, right? Compared to them. So in a way, you're just stuck, right? But who knows? You know what would be funny though? Like imagine you win all that money from lottery and you realize that it was all a lie. Like the thing that forces everyone to work day in and day out to have bloody competitions against one another. Imagine getting the ultimate resource only to realize that it was all a lie and a facade. And it was just paper in the end. That would be an interesting one. But on the flip side, don't bash it until you're there, right? And if the system, and one thing I learned in sales it was that you're not better than the game. So perhaps it's meant to be. Then there is nothing to complain about. But you know, we live in America and we already have better lives than most people in this world. And while, yes, if propaganda videos from China would have you believe on YouTube lately that China is doing better, well, those are good parts of China, right? China also have their struggling villages. That being said, most people are living better in China, so they've come a long way too. So it's really weird, right? Because and actually that's one of the reasons why if I ever like am in the competition, like competition of wealth or something, I actually don't want to be number one. I want to be in a comfortable position, so maybe third, fourth, and fifth. Because when you're number one, everyone aims for number one. And America is in this weird situation where America is number one, sure, but with number one, it comes with certain responsibilities and advantages. And the advantage would be, credit, right? America can fight war against other people or invest against other people using credit, while other people have to like beg for resources before they can even put up a fight, right? And it has its benefits, but on the flip side, when you're number one, everyone knows who you are, and it becomes the ultimate test of is all the other countries banding together, is their teamwork stronger than America's prowess alone, right? And that would be an interesting thing to watch as it play out. Anyways, I think I've ranted on long enough, but at the end of the day, between realizing your true self and desire, I think that as for true self, you sort of just have to let yourself grow and perhaps go to different places, put yourself into interesting situations, and just observe how you react in different situations so that you can understand your true self a lot better. And as for desire, I mean, we're all human, right? If we don't desire, then maybe that's where stagnation comes from, right? Because I feel like there's always a certain amount of healthy, like it's always like yin yang with a balance, this kind of thing. So like, someone who's content versus somebody who's complacent, right? Both are stopping at the place, but different concept. right? But then as for desire, it could be ambition, but it could also be greedy or any of the seven deadly sins, right? So, yeah, I think it really comes down to, yeah, just observing yourself as you move forward. Anyways, I hope that has been helpful for everyone, and I'll see you guys next week. Have a great evening. Bye.